Have you ever wondered why you feel so drained even when you're giving it your all? Or why some days feel like a constant uphill battle with yourself? The problem might not be some huge, life-altering issue. Instead, it could be hiding in the small, seemingly harmless habits you repeat every single day. Today, we're going to talk about 9 of these habits, the ones that quietly chip away at your inner strength. And we'll also reveal how the ancient Stoics found the antidote to them centuries ago. So get ready. This video might just change the way you see things. So, Stoicism. It's not just a philosophy, it's a practical guide to living a good life. Born in ancient Greece and later refined in Rome, this school of thought teaches us to focus on what's within our control. Specifically, our thoughts, our reactions, and our actions. Great thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about finding inner peace and resilience. They lived it. They understood that true strength isn't about physical power or material wealth. It's found in the mind. And today, we'll use their wisdom to identify the very habits that are making us weaker. Let's break down the first habit that's quietly weakening you every single day. Constant complaining. Think about it. How often do you find yourself complaining? About the weather, the traffic, the political climate, or even a slow internet connection? Perhaps you're unhappy with your boss, your colleagues, or even your own family. The list of grievances can seem endless. The ancient Stoics would argue that this isn't just a bad habit, it's an incredibly wasteful one. And why is that? Because it robs you of your vital energy. They taught us to focus only on what we can control. Complaining at its core is fixating on things that are completely beyond your control. After all, you can't stop the rain with a thought, nor can you change how other people act. When you complain, you are essentially surrendering your personal power to external circumstances. You become a hostage to them. This is more than just negative thinking. It's an active process that drains you of your valuable energy. Your brain expends resources creating and sustaining feelings of irritation and helplessness. Instead of seeking solutions or adapting to the situation, you just sink deeper into the problem. The great thinkers of the past understood this. To be truly strong, you must accept what you cannot change and focus your energy only on where you can actually make a difference. Constant complaining turns you into a passive observer of your own life, preventing you from taking action and moving forward. Let's move on to the second habit that weakens you day by day, constantly seeking approval from other people. In today's world, especially with the rise of social media, this habit has become a full-blown epidemic. You post something online and constantly check how many likes it gets. You accomplish something at work and wait for praise from your boss. Or maybe you even change your behavior just to please your friends or family. So where does the weakness lie? The Stoics taught that your true worth comes from within. It doesn't depend on the opinions of others, the number of followers you have, or what people say about you. When you seek approval, you're placing your self-worth in someone else's hands. You become a hostage to their expectations. If someone doesn't praise you, or worse, criticizes you, your mood plummets. You feel like you're not good enough. This leads you to live a life that isn't your own, but one you think others will approve of. You become afraid to express your true thoughts. You shy away from bold actions. Because what if someone doesn't approve? Think of all the energy you waste chasing external validation. The Stoics championed self-sufficiency in your own self-assessment. Their motto was essentially, "Why should I care about the crowd's opinion?" They understood that true strength lies in being steadfast in your own convictions, regardless of external praise or criticism. Seeking approval makes you fragile and dependent. Now let's talk about the third habit that saps your strength day after day. This is the habit of putting things off, better known as procrastination. Be honest, how many times have you told yourself, "I'll start tomorrow, I'll get to it later," or "Now just isn't the right time"? This applies to tasks both big and small, writing that important report, hitting the gym, calling a friend, or even just cleaning your apartment. So why does procrastination make you weaker? The Stoics taught us to value and use time as our most precious resource. Seneca, for example, constantly reminded us of how fleeting life is, quoting, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When you procrastinate, you're not just postponing a task, you're creating internal tension. That unfinished task hangs over your head, draining your mental energy. It breeds feelings of guilt, anxiety, and stress, even if you're not consciously aware of it. Every time you give in to procrastination, you weaken your willpower. You're training your brain to avoid discomfort rather than facing it head on. It's like a muscle. The less you exercise it, the weaker it gets. Taking action, right here and right now, without excuses, that is a true display of discipline and inner strength. The Stoics championed the discipline of action. They understood that the future is uncertain. The only thing you truly have is the present moment. By procrastinating, you let that moment slip away. You become indecisive and passive, and that in turn makes you weaker. Let's explore the fourth habit that silently erodes your inner strength: an excessive attachment to material possessions. We live in a culture that worships consumerism. There's a constant stream of new gadgets, the latest fashions, and updated cars, and we're led to believe that each new purchase will bring us happiness or somehow improve our lives. But the Stoics, like Epictetus, warned against this kind of attachment. They taught that external things, whether wealth, property, or even our reputation, are ultimately beyond our control. Any of it can be lost, stolen, broken, or devalued in an instant. And this is where the vulnerability lies. If your happiness and peace of mind depend on owning material things, you become incredibly fragile. Attachment to possessions makes you their slave. You pour your energy into acquiring them, maintaining them, and protecting them. But the crucial part is what happens when those things disappear or get damaged. You're left with suffering, disappointment, or even anger. Your inner state begins to fluctuate with the condition of your belongings. The Stoics, in contrast, aimed for ataraxia, a state of profound tranquility that is independent of external circumstances. They understood that true wealth is an internal state, not the number of objects you've accumulated. An excessive attachment to the material world makes you dependent and shatters your peace in the face of loss. And that brings us to the fifth habit that's constantly holding you back: the avoidance of discomfort. In our modern world, we are obsessed with comfort. We take the elevator instead of the stairs. We choose fast food over a healthy meal that takes effort to prepare. We binge-watch a series instead of exercising or doing the hard work of self-improvement. We go out of our way to avoid any unpleasant sensation, whether it's physical fatigue, mental strain, or emotional pain. So why does this seemingly harmless pursuit of comfort make us weaker? The Stoics, particularly Seneca and Epictetus, actively practiced and promoted what they called voluntary discomfort. They understood that when you avoid hardship, you fail to forge your spirit. You become softer, less resilient to life's trials. Imagine a muscle. If you don't challenge it, it atrophies. The exact same thing happens to your inner strength. When you consistently avoid anything that feels difficult or unpleasant, you lose the ability to cope with the inevitable challenges of life. The smallest problem feels like a catastrophe. A minor delay in line causes irritation. A tough task triggers panic. The Stoics, however, urge people to deliberately expose themselves to small difficulties to prepare for the big ones. For instance, they might eat plain food for a while, sleep on a hard surface, or endure the cold. This made them resilient to the whims of fate. Avoiding discomfort makes you fragile, unable to adapt, and weak in the face of life's inevitable hardships. All right, the sixth habit that makes you weaker every day is indulging your weaknesses. What does this mean? It's when you deliberately choose to do something you know harms your health, your productivity, or your overall well-being instead of practicing self-control. This could be endlessly scrolling through social media, eating more even when you're already full, drinking too much, or staying up late when you know you have an early start the next day. So why is this so weakening? Stoicism is a philosophy built on reason and self-discipline. As Marcus Aurelius said, a rational being must understand that their own well-being depends on them. When you give in to your immediate desires and impulses, you surrender control over yourself. You become a slave to your passions and instincts rather than the master of your own mind. Every time you indulge, you weaken your willpower, making it harder to resist temptation the next time. By letting these weaknesses take over, you erode your personal discipline. You lose your sense of purpose and direction. This creates a vicious cycle. The more you give in, the harder it becomes to say no. You're not just harming your physical and mental health. You're also robbing yourself of the chance to achieve your greater goals. The Stoics championed temperance and moderation. They understood that true freedom is freedom from your own internal chains. Indulging your weaknesses makes you dependent and strips you of your priceless self-control. Let's move on to the 7th habit that saps your strength. Dwelling on the past or worrying excessively about the future. You find yourself replaying old grievances, mistakes, or missed opportunities. Or you're constantly agonizing over what hasn't happened yet, upcoming events, potential problems, or an uncertain future. So why is this so debilitating? The Stoics, like Seneca, constantly reminded us of the importance of living in the present moment. The past is gone and cannot be changed. Worrying about the future means suffering over things that may never come to pass. When your mind is stuck in these other timelines, you miss out on the only thing you truly possess, the present. You're wasting precious mental energy on things that lie beyond your control. Dredging up the past leads to regret, guilt, and resentment. It's a heavy burden to carry. Meanwhile, constant thoughts about the future breed anxiety, fear, and uncertainty. Neither state allows you to act effectively in the present. You become unable to enjoy the moment, make clear decisions, or take initiative. The Stoics called for amor fati, a love of one's fate. This means accepting everything that happens and focusing only on your response in the here and now. They understood that true power lies in being fully present and acting on what is within your power to influence. Dwelling on the past or worrying about the future robs you of this presence, leaving you powerless against the current of life. Let's break down the 8th habit that makes you weaker every day. Constantly comparing yourself to others. In the age of social media, this habit has become especially toxic. We see the highlight reels of other people's lives. Someone's traveling the world, someone has a booming career, someone looks perfect, and we can't help but measure ourselves against these often unrealistic images. So why is this so debilitating? The Stoics taught us to focus on our own internal development and walk our own path. They understood that every person is unique, each on their own journey. When you compare yourself to others, you get trapped in an endless race you can never win. There will always be someone who seems better in some way. This comparison inevitably leads to feelings of inadequacy, envy, disappointment, and dissatisfaction with yourself. Instead of celebrating your own achievements and progress, you're left with a constant feeling of not being good enough. You overlook your own strengths and unique talents, focusing instead on what you lack. This distracts you from your own goals and values. Your energy gets drained trying to live up to someone else's standards rather than building your own authentic life. The Stoics advocated for self-improvement, not for chasing someone else's idea of perfection. They knew that true strength comes from recognizing your own worth and focusing on your own growth. Comparing yourself to others robs you of your uniqueness, erodes your self-esteem, and ultimately makes you weaker. And finally, the 9th habit that weakens you every day, a lack of self-reflection. What does this mean? It means you don't take the time to pause and reflect on your actions, your thoughts, and your reactions to the day's events. You simply go through the motions, moving from one task to the next on autopilot, without ever analysing your experiences. So, why was this so crucial to the Stoics, and why does its absence weaken you? The great Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, dedicated time each evening to self-examination. They would journal their thoughts, assess their actions, and consider how they could have done better. For them, this was a key tool for personal growth. Without self-reflection, you rob yourself of the opportunity to learn from your mistakes. You fail to identify the negative patterns of behaviour that are holding you back. Imagine sailing a boat without a compass or a map, not knowing where you're going or even where you've been. A lack of self-reflection is precisely this kind of journey through life. You remain unaware of your true motivations, your strengths, and your weaknesses. This leaves you vulnerable to external influences and internal impulses. You repeat the same mistakes over and over again, never understanding their root cause. The Stoics championed reason and self-knowledge. They understood that true strength begins with a deep understanding of the self. A lack of self-reflection blinds you to your own flaws and prevents you from attaining true inner wisdom. And now we get to the heart of the matter, the very essence of Stoicism, the game-changing insight that so many people miss. You see, the single most destructive habit, the one that weakens you day after day, isn't any one of these 9 things individually. No, it's the deep-seated belief that you have no control over your internal response to what happens around you. After all, habits like complaining, procrastinating, or depending on the approval of others, they're just symptoms that you've handed over control of your inner peace to external circumstances and other people's opinions. The real weakness is believing you're a passive spectator in your own life instead of its active architect. As Marcus Aurelius taught us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. True strength lies in the realization that while you can't control external events, you can always control how you respond to them. And that changes everything. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has helped you see some of these habits in a new light. If you found it valuable, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these habits was the most surprising to you? Or which one are you committed to changing starting today? I'm really looking forward to reading your thoughts.